Welcome to Settling's Not an Option. I'm Adam Nebbs. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show. Amanda couldn't join us today as she's got a very chockers week, and I'm kind of in that student end of semester mode. So I thought I might just do a bit of an introductory video. Amanda's the one who does all the editing for the show. So I just want to say a big hats off to her because I'm completely incompetent at that side of things. I just want to say to everyone who's been viewing or listening to the show along the way, thank you so much for your support. We really hope that we've imparted some wisdom along the way, whether it's through myself, Amanda, or any of the guests on the show. The 4 clips that we are going to feature in today's kind of mashup all have a common theme. We had 4 guests on the show this year, and they were all women. And they all had amazing, powerful stories to share, which I think is really important. If you have been following the show, you might have noticed a bit of a common thread. I really do believe that those that embody the sacred feminine, I guess you could call it, are going to be the ones that are going to change the trajectory of the world. I think masculine ideologies have had their place and have certainly caused us to lose our way. Whereas I think, those feminine ideologies will be what gets us back on track. And the 4 guests, so obviously we had Lydia Willig, Tammy Rowe, Joanna Gore, and Gabby Kovalenko, all had their own individual stories, which I found to be really, really exciting and interesting along the way. And obviously, Amanda had an amazing story to share at the beginning as well. So just want to say thanks again to everyone. We'll be back in the new year. We're kind of revamping the show because we feel like we need to kind of figure out exactly where we're looking to go. But yeah, we're looking forward to obviously recording some more episodes in the new year for you. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Cheers.
It's crazy. Like the point that you made before, which I really like, was the gut tug. I suppose that, you get into yoga and it just felt right. Could you unpack a little bit more? Because I'm really interested in this idea of the universe placing us where we need to be and us manifesting, what we need at that time. And I know obviously manifesting in the universe and a lot of things like that, there'll be people out there thinking, no, I don't want to think that way. But for anyone who's having those doubts, could you kind of talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm very into manifesting and working with the energy of the universe. And of course, at that time when I found yoga, I had no idea that any of that existed. I didn't know what mindfulness was. I didn't know any of this world of spirituality. So to me, it was kind of a huge shock when I felt that gut tug. I was just kind of in the class doing these asana and not really knowing what I was doing, but I felt confident with it because I'm able-bodied and whatnot. So I was just kind of doing the things. And all of a sudden, there was just this overwhelming sense of peace that came over me, and almost like a voice in my head saying, you need to do this. And
Yep. I'm laughing because I've heard that voice before. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
And those are such magic moments too, when you get that kind of hit of your intuition coming out and really kind of screaming in your face like, hey, you found it. This is it.
Right.
Yeah. And for me too, it was going to more of these classes and just getting deeper into the practice of yoga. I so immediately felt that it was more than just this physical activity that I was doing. It really, the healing it gave me right off the bat was so intense in the best way. And I knew if a practice like yoga, which at that time too, it was like the surface level of what yoga is, Sure. I've learned so much since then, but even just that kind of entry level to yoga, there was so much healing happening for me. And that gut tug was saying, you can't be selfish and keep this to yourself. You have to share this.
Right.
You have to share this with people.
A question as well, because we were talking about science and spirituality. So that's something I'm interested in. There's some really thought-provoking leaders out there at the moment. So Dr. Dan Siegel, and I encourage anyone to look up his work. That changed my perspective on some really big things. And somebody by the name of Mark Gober, they have talked a lot about a consilience between hard science, I guess if you could call it that, and spirituality, and have spent a lot of time trying to convince these very
sometimes narrow-minded, hard scientists that spirituality has a place and can be tested. Could you talk a bit about that, Gabby, and what you've noticed in your journey around those two kind of disciplines coming together?
So the biggest problem, I guess, with anybody who is trying to figure out the way things work, which is why spirituality and science exist in the first place. Somebody has ventured to discover what is really going on. Let's explore more and find more answers to explain what's going on. How can we deliver answer solutions to people? And what happens is we find separateness. Anytime we start to dig deep into something, we find that there is something that we don't have a full picture of. And in faith, in spirituality, or in religion, a lot of times stuff is left open-ended. It is the way it is. And at some points, and puts a period on it and says, that's just what it is. This is faith. The rest we can just leave to some unknowing source, or we shouldn't expect a solution. In science, the same thing happens, except scientists tend to say that, what we know, most of what we know, and the rest, they just kind of flick off. It is what it is as well. And if we really dig deeper, which a lot of us now are starting to, and this has been going on for hundreds of years, you find to see there are inconsistencies. And some people have wanted to connect the dots. The deeper you go, the more you realize that there must be something more to this. In terms of science, a lot of people ask, so what really is the universe? What is operating all of this matter? Once you get to the level of frequency of vibration, you start to think, okay, well, how can we explain then how everything comes together?
Yeah.
And so this concept of God comes in, and people really ask, what is consciousness? So what I'm now studying, what I've gotten to, is that quantum physics and quantum mechanics is really the bridge between religion or spirituality and science altogether. So the unanswered question between the two is like, what is the commonality? How can we bridge all of the concepts together, and how can we fill in the blanks to understand what is all of it? And how is oneness really a thing that creates this concept of totality in the world? So, and quantum mechanics, this really introduced the idea of consciousness. So this is the center of what I do, what I focus on. And it's the basic explanation for consciousness is the sea of possibilities. It is all the potential, and it's the ground of being. So it connects the dots perfectly, because consciousness explains how everything is interconnected, how energy plays into everything at a distance. This is how everything can work. And there's like the butterfly effect, where say a butterfly flaps its wings in Texas, and there's going to be a tsunami halfway across the world, and phenomenons like this that otherwise science or spirituality just wouldn't be able to explain, or psychic phenomena like remote viewing, in which one person on one continent might be seeing something occurring halfway across the world.
Yeah.
Science just can't explain these things. And instead of shutting the door and saying, you know what, there is no explanation, that ordinary classical physics just couldn't explain. A lot of their laws just dealt with physical matter. This is the way it is, and that's it. And later on, theoretical physicists found that there needs to be another explanation. So when quantum physics came in, it really started weaving everything together. And it's interesting to look in terms of history, how in terms of this dichotomy between religion and science, it's always existed. Like Galileo is a great example. He's like the father of physics, but a lot of people don't know that he spent the last years of his life being under house arrest because the church totally ostracized him for his ideas.
Yeah.
He tended to believe that there was this concept that the sun is in the middle of the universe and the earth is revolving around it. So it's very similar to what we believe today. And because
what a crazy idea. No.
Yeah, right. Now it seems like that, but back then he was seen as a huge threat.
Right.
And a lot of people now still see that. And so when you try to connect the dots, there's going to be someone in the spiritual community, the religious community, that's going to say, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into my paradigm of reality. But quantum physics is really proposing and has proven how everything is really tangled up in this universe, how things are correlated and cooperate to explain how things didn't make sense before.
Yeah.
So as we add this to the human being, how we can use quantum physics, it really helps us understand why consciousness and why our control over consciousness can help us achieve what we want in life, how we can heal ourselves, which is what I focus on with my medical degree right now. It's how utilizing our consciousness is the most important tool to healing ourselves, to looking at really why the problem set in. Because since anything that occurred to our consciousness, our personal control of it, can create a problem, it's the same way that we can fix the problem. In the scientific communities, they look at it like there's an issue, we need to solve it or cure it with medications and with treatments like that that don't actually deal with the root. And so that's something that really led me down this path to understanding that there's just more to it. And it's really sad to see that after so many hundreds of years, we haven't gone towards this understanding that the ancients told us about how everything cooperates, how we can heal naturally, how we can see how everything's connected. And instead, we're just pushing towards that scientific materialist view, where now a lot of this is seen as pseudoscience, even though it has been proven. And we can really use this to help shape our lives for the better.
I think everything's done for a purpose. Nothing's coincidental. It's you're meant to go down these paths to find out where you want to be, really.
Yeah. And where does that belief come from? Because I mean, I think, you know, I've talked about it a couple of times with Amanda, like this, and I suppose Lydia talked about it in her interview too, this like gut tug kind of mentality, or that the universe is guiding us down this path. You know, where does it come from? Is it through faith, or do you want to unpack that a bit more for us?
Do you know what? I don't know. I think losing my mum 10 years ago, I think it was a massive shock because she was only 48.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm 35 now, so I'm 13 years off where my mum would have been. But I think losing my mum, I don't want to be one of these people when my time's up on this earth where you go to a funeral and there's not many stories to tell about someone. Or the things that they've done. I want to be able to have impacted as many people in my lifetime for them to be able to remember all the good things, or be able to tell those amazing stories and to look back on a life that you think, God, she did a heck of a lot in the time that she was here. So it's not so much a belief, I don't know where I get it from. Something just tells me I have to help people. I feel like I have to help as many people as I can because I can. And if I can...
Right, okay. I think life teaches you lessons, you know? So, the more we get sort of kicked in our life, the stronger we become. So, and more, you know, resilient.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
That's the thing, yeah. So I did work for most of my life. I've worked in different office environments and a little bit in retail. I've moved countries. I've moved from Poland to Ireland, so I've been living in Ireland for over 16 years now.
Okay.
But it's actually, you know, when I was at my low, you know, that's when the aha moment came, and well, you know what, I don't want to be here. I don't like where and then you know, at least in my situation, I just took charge of whatever was happening. I decided I don't want to be anymore dependent and reliant on anybody else. So, you know, if it comes to my life, and especially professional life, and now earlier this year, you know, with the whole situation, and, you know, to tell you the truth, I'm still waiting for a call back from my job.
Okay.
Yeah, so I decided, no, well, this just doesn't look good to me, and I said I'm not going to be waiting forever, and I just took matters in my own hands. So I started my own business, and I got certified as a coach, and you know, now I can help other people. You know, if I can even influence or, you know, inspire them a little bit, I'll be delighted, you know, to actually be in charge of their own life. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
There was something you said in there. Now I got lost in the story, but there was something in there I was going to ask. So you mentioned that there was a point where you're like, aha moment, where you just decided, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Can you describe that a little bit more of what really, or in what gave you the power, I guess, to get through that and push on?
Yeah, well, see, I've been sort of, I've been on a spiritual and personal development journey for a while.
Okay.
Okay. And how can I say it? Between, you know, from, let's say, the last job that I had before that, before I was in my last job, the job before that, you know, everything was great, and then the crash happened. The crash of 2008 happened.
Okay.
And the whole company went down, and so I lost my job. And then I had my children, so a few years with the children. I wanted to go back to work. You know, first I was working some part-time jobs, you know, because the kids were still small.
Sure.
And then I decided, right, I want to, you know, I'm ready now. The kids are going back to school now. And so I was ready to, you know, go back to full-time work. And I found a job, which is actually here where I am, because it's the countryside. It's a very small town. It's about 4,500 people here.
Okay.
So any jobs there are, most of the time, it's, you know, friends and family would have the jobs. If you want,
right.
you know, a good job, you need to travel to larger cities. Okay. So I didn't want to do that. So, but eventually I did find a full-time job, and I was in that job for about a year, and then this happened, right? The COVID happened.
Right.
So I sort of felt, you know what, it was great to have this sense of security for a while. And then, you know, the whole world is, you know, it's in bits again. So I just thought, well, nobody's job is safe, and you never know what can happen. And that sort of came onto me, and I just understood, well, I have to do something about this. I don't want to be reliant on, do I have, or will I have, or will they give me a job, or so I just decided to take charge of this, you know. So it was like a low moment where I was quite low, and then all of a sudden, well, no, this is it. I have to change this, you know. And the mindset then, it was amazing to see this mindset shift happening in me, because I was doing some personal development courses at the time. Sure. So it was sort of all bundled up together, and, you know, it's amazing to see how many things you can actually take charge of when you actually do it.
That's right. It really is amazing.
And that decision to make the decision is quite hard. That the first, you know, this is it. I'm going for it, and just stick to it. And that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah.